One more time. Slick and Shiny Tongue-in-Cheek Productions takes a look at Whitney, Pennsylvania, the old days when it was growing up, and what happened there. This is the town itself. Not a very big place. And down in this area, this is where the mine and coke ovens were located. There happens to be a church here now, but that was not the first church. This church is fairly recent. The first church was a Catholic church up above here, which we'll see. And I want to take a look at things at Whitney in 1939. This is what it looked like. The town itself was right here. And right here below it was what looks very much like a pond of water, which is very likely because you almost always had a water source near coke ovens. These were the coke ovens in the mine area down in here, and right here was the tipple where the coal from the mine was loaded, and then it could be sent out up on top of the coke ovens to feed them. Tipple is right here, and we'll get a look at that. In the 1970s, around 1975, I was driving past Whitney and saw the tipple and thought I would get a shot of it. And this is the black and white photo that I took. This tipple was torn down in 1988. The mine pretty much ceased to function. The last coal operation that was going on there was called Brown Coal Company, and I don't think it was a large operation. The larger operations were previous. The Hostetter operation started there in 1889. That was taken over by Henry Clay Frick in the first decade of the 20th century. And by 1930, it was going into the Depression, the mine was shut down. In the early 1940s, it was started up again. Jamison Coal from Greensburg leased the operation from Frick and ran it into the 1960s. The early 1960s, it was shut down. Significant operations, only smaller operations after that. That was what was left of the tipple when it was shut down. These were the cement piers that held the steel beams that was the actual structure of the tipple. Again, these are the piers that held the tipple. You can see remains of the slag that was pulled out of the mine. Here again, you can see the mine refuse. This is up in Cambria County where I came from. It was called Boney. They were called Boney dumps, where they dumped this stuff. And the piers from the tipple were over here. And then up in here, you can get a look at Whitney, the town. This is what it looked like on one of the main streets. These were all double houses built to be rented out to miners. 2 families could live in each house. This shows what the houses looked like when they were first made. In the course of time, most of them have additions put on them, windows changed, siding put on. This one someone was working on, and it's pretty much stripped down to the way it looked when it was first built. You see they have a pile of cement blocks out here. I'm probably going to put them under the porch. You can see what they looked like when they were being used during the time of the mining. This is an older shot because you can see a wooden sidewalk, and that was a feature of the older buildings. And I thought it might help to put a little bit of color on this. You can see on the back porch, a couple kids were sitting here, And maybe their grandmother was sitting there watching them, make sure they didn't get into trouble. And probably a garden out back. Looks like a nice domestic scene, well taken care of. This is probably about the same vintage, 1930s. A store there in Whitney, a place where you could buy stuff and gasoline was being sold. In the period of the 30s, the mine was shut down, so the company store was probably not functioning. And we'll see this some years later. This is the same building, and a garage has been built next to it to do auto work. A guy named John Vizdos was proprietor of the store at this time. This might have been 70s or 80s or so. This is an old map. This is what we know as Route 30. This is the Unity Branch. This is what allowed the mines to come about. Without the Unity Branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad, these mines would never have happened. They needed transportation to haul coal and coke. Over here is another mine which was not associated with Hostetter and Whitney in its origin. It was built by a company from Latrobe called Puritan Coal. But as time went on, in the first decade of the 20th century, Henry Clay Frick, his outfit, bought up most of the outfits, the coal and coke production outfits, and so they were associated at that time, even though in origin they were not associated. We get a look from up in the air. Here's Whitney, and up in here, this was the original church. This was St. Cecilia's Church. It was staffed by St. Vincent. That's what it looked like. That was not the original church buildings, but on that property was the original building, a wooden structure, and it started up in 1891. And the story goes that the guys worked in the mine, and after work in the mine, they would come up and do work digging the foundation for the new church. And toward the end of 1891, it was ready to use, and Abbot Andrew Hintonock came out to consecrate the new church. This structure here, this came about, the church itself, in 1916, and when that was finished, it was Abbot Leander who came out to consecrate it. That's what we were looking at right up here. And then down here, much more recently, another church showed up. And I don't know the denomination. But where it sits is where the old coal and coke operation used to be going on. This is an atlas map from 1917. The big thing then was the roads. They're shown in red. This up here at Latrobe is where the Unity Branch takes off. The black lines are railroads coming down, going out to Hostetter, Bagley, Whitney. And you also see other thinner black lines. These are the trolley lines. You see them again in this one. This is the Unity Branch Railroad coming down to service the mines, coming down to Whitney. And this line here coming down is a trolley line. And a lot of these miners didn't have a car or any way to get into town. And the trolley was a useful thing for them. They could, they could get on the trolley, go into town, do their shopping, or just get out of the little town of Whitney for a bit. This shows only trolley lines. It shows this is coming down from Derry through Latrobe, Bagley, Hostetter, Whitney. And it went down here, and you could interchange here with the line coming down from Greensburg down at Hecla. These are all trolley lines. And that's what they were riding on. People familiar with the most recent trolleys might remember things a bit more modern than this, but these were the old timers, what people would be riding on in the old times, coming out of Whitney and Hofstadter and Bagley and down that way. And I think that's enough. And I hope you enjoyed the trip. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you again. Bye now.